Alright guys, Papa Pepper here with more of 50 Days to Understand the End Times More Accurately. Today we're doing Day 23, Olivet Discourse, Armageddon or Rapture, Part 2. As we prepare to compare, let's review what is said of the coming spoken of in the Olivet Discourse. Quote, "And then shall appear the sign of the Son of Man in heaven, and then all the tribes of the earth shall mourn, and they shall see the Son of Man coming in the clouds of heaven with power and great glory. And he shall send his angels with a great sound of a trumpet, and they shall gather together his elect from the four winds, and from one end of heaven to the other." Matthew chapter 24, verses 30 to 31. "And then shall they see the Son of Man coming in the clouds with great power and glory. And then shall he send his angels, and shall gather together his elect from the four winds, from the uttermost part of the earth to the uttermost part of heaven." Mark chapter 13, verses 26 and 27. In these Olivet Discourse passages, we find the following information. Jesus appears in the clouds and sends his angels with a great sound of a trumpet to gather his elect. Some will claim that the elect are the Jews of future Israel. But every other time elect is used to refer to humans in the New Testament, it simply is referring to believers, or saints. When we compare this information with the Battle of Armageddon, return facts from Zechariah, we notice a difference. Though Jesus was sitting on the Mount of Olives when he gave the Olivet Discourse, he makes no mention of it at all, much less its splitting in half. He could have easily cited such as evidence that he had not yet returned in verses such as this. "Then if any man say unto you, Lo, here is Christ, or Lo, he is there, believe him not." Mark chapter 13, verse 21. If Christ is added, "For the Mount of Olives is not split after believe him not," it would be exponentially more difficult for false Christs to deceive people. Additionally, no angels or trumpets are mentioned in Zechariah chapter 14, verses 3 to 5. Perhaps the most persuasive evidence, besides Christ landing on the Mount of Olives and splitting it, would be that Zechariah states that he will come with all the saints. All is a very important number. There would be no need to gather any more unto him if they were already all with him. When we compare the 1 Thessalonians rapture passage with the events described in the Olivet Discourse, what do we find? First, Christ is in the air in both passages, and believers are gathered together to him. Also, we read of a great sound of a trumpet in the Olivet Discourse and the trump of God in 1 Thessalonians. Though only one angel is mentioned in the rapture passage, with the shout of the archangel, and multiple angels, then shall he send his angels, in the Olivet Discourse, there is specific mention of angelic presence in each of these passages, which Zechariah did not mention. You can look into this issue more for yourself, but based upon Scripture, I can determine, or based upon what I can thus far determine from Scripture, I am sure that you can reason why I believe that the coming mentioned in the Olivet Discourse appears to have much more in common with Christ's rapture return than is coming for the Battle of Armageddon. Point number 1, similarities between the coming described in the Olivet Discourse and what we are told about Christ coming for the Battle of Armageddon do not seem to exist. Point number 2, many similarities exist between the rapture passage in 1 Thessalonians and the coming described in the Olivet Discourse. You may wonder what all this means. It means that this so-called rapture occurs in a timeline of events, and it's spoken of there after the abomination of desolation. We'll continue with some stuff tomorrow. Thanks for joining me. Papa out.